I tell the truth. I expose the lies. A lot of people in this industry try and pull the wool over people's eyes and kind of try and, they have their agendas. And I don't bullshit, I tell the truth.
From like a perspective of yourself, you've had your dealings with Conor and even Eddie itself. What did you make, I guess, of the move to Zuffa and everything that went on there?
I wasn't surprised. These people, they're all cut from the same cloth. They're all the same type of person. They all deserve each other.
When I first got the news, I was upset. Now, normally with me, I just kind of, after a little bit, I just go, do you know what, it's fucking... But it's actually aggravating me more and more. Do you know what I mean? Like, to the point where I'm not upset anymore. I'm actually quite angry. And when I sit back and actually think about it...
Oh, he's the dog, he left me, he never found me. It happens. Stop pretending that you know nothing like that ever happened to you, Eddie. How many fighters have you dropped to earn away on the sideline? But I'm not going to go down that road.
Chris Eubank Jr. keeps the pressure boiling in this whole Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn fallout, questioning the shifting loyalties and calling out how quickly the narrative has changed. He suggests that people are twisting stories to protect reputations, while Eddie Hearn remains the central figure dealing with backlash and criticism from all sides.
They're talking because your golden tickets left you and you've got Anthony Joshua. Good luck to you. We're not going to sit down there worrying about you. We're going to watch Conor build up his bank balance and enjoy his life. We ain't going to be thinking about Eddie. If he wants to call Conor a dog, that's so.
Eddie Hearn shows real frustration as the situation with Conor Benn continues to escalate, revealing how deeply personal this fallout has become for him. Chris Eubank Jr. also adds fuel to the fire, questioning the truth behind the entire split and suggesting that Eddie Hearn is being pushed into a corner despite his long history of support and loyalty towards Conor Benn.
Careful what I say. I actually think, you dog. That's what I think. Whereas before, I was a bit upset. I was a bit emotional. But I actually thought, because I'll probably be at his fight, because we have Justice Honey fighting, and maybe I go with AJ to watch, and I just thought, if I see him, I have to let him know. Not in a confrontational way, but I would have to tell him, because it's I think I've got to get it off my chest.
What are you going to say to Conor Benn? First time you see him, what are you going to be saying to that brother?
Probably saying like...
Frank Smith highlights the emotional breakdown in trust between Conor Benn and Eddie Hearn, explaining how long-term loyalty was lost over a simple lack of communication. From Eddie Hearn's side, this situation is being framed as a business reality rather than betrayal, showing his calm and professional approach. Despite the tension, Eddie Hearn's position is being defended as reasonable, especially considering the financial scale involved and the choices fighters are free to make in modern boxing.
When you've had a relationship with someone for 10 years, when you've had someone stand by you for 10 years, unlike any other fighter, any other relationship, all he had to do was say, "Can I come and see you? I want to have a conversation with you in person." That's all. Because no one's sitting there going, "You shouldn't have taken the offer." I'm sitting there going, "Well, yeah, fucking 15 million, cool."
Nigel Benn reacts emotionally to the ongoing drama, calling out the situation and suggesting that Eddie Hearn is not innocent when it comes to fighter relationships breaking down. Eddie Hearn, however, is still being viewed as someone who manages fighters in a structured business environment where tough decisions are sometimes unavoidable. This contrast is fueling the debate, with Eddie Hearn's professional handling of fighter contracts being defended against personal criticism from opposing voices.
Yeah, but it's not about that, because it's very childish. I'm not going to even answer that question, because you can call Conor a dog. Who really cares?
Conor Benn speaks on his personal struggles, insisting he handled his legal and financial pressure on his own without outside support. However, Eddie Hearn's side of the story paints a different picture, suggesting he played a major role in supporting fighters during difficult moments. This back and forth continues to deepen the divide, with Eddie Hearn being portrayed as both a businessman and a mentor caught in a messy public fallout.
I had to do that myself. Yeah. And that's a big part of the reason as to why no one's gonna defend you, no one's gonna have your back when you're done and forgotten about. You have to look after yourself and your family. Yeah.
Duke McKenzie reflects on the emotional side of Eddie Hearn's situation, pointing out how difficult it is for a promoter to invest heavily in a fighter only for that relationship to break down. Eddie Hearn is being shown here as someone genuinely affected by the fallout, highlighting the personal impact behind what is often seen as just business. This adds more sympathy toward Eddie Hearn's position in the ongoing dispute.
And talk about this situation, he sounds really hurt. I mean, personally hurt. How do you swallow that? How do you swallow that pain that you know, you've given your whole heart, mind, body and soul and help somebody, then they stick two fingers up at you and they go, yeah, actually, mate, I'm going to find my own way now. That hurts. That's a personal thing.
Frank Smith explains the financial support structure that was provided during Conor Benn's career, framing it as professional advances rather than personal loans. Eddie Hearn's promotional team is being shown as actively investing in fighters' careers to help them progress. This reinforces the argument that Eddie Hearn operates within a business model where financial backing comes with structured expectations and eventual returns.
Multiple hundreds of thousands at multiple points in his career, right? You know, whether it was to buy a house or whatever, or, you know, around the Eubank fight, we advanced him multiple hundreds of thousands as well, which we subsequently got back in 2025. So if you want to call it an advance, trying to play on words. Is it technically named a loan? No, but it's an advance and a loan.
Conor Benn expresses his ambition to stay active and push his career forward with multiple fights, emphasizing his confidence and readiness. From Eddie Hearn's perspective, this reflects the type of fighter mindset he often builds and promotes, where activity and opportunity are key to progression. The situation shows that despite the fallout, Eddie Hearn's influence on shaping careers and ambitions in boxing remains a central talking point in this ongoing drama.
I do my job, I stay ready. And it's the team's job to make sure that the fights get made and materialise. And I know we've got big plans for me to take the world by storm.
Excellent. And who else outside of Garcia is appealing to you? Rolly Romero?
Duke McKenzie lays it out clearly. The emotional damage the situation has caused Eddie Hearn after investing everything into Conor Benn's career. From Eddie Hearn's perspective, this is not just business but a genuine sense of betrayal after years of backing and guidance. Chris Eubank Jr. has also been vocal around this chaos, adding pressure by highlighting how messy and personal this fallout has become in British boxing.
And talk about this situation, he sounds really hurt. I mean, personally hurt. How do you swallow that? How do you swallow that pain that you know, you've given your whole heart, mind, body and soul and help somebody, then they stick two fingers up at you and they go, yeah, actually, mate, I'm going to find my own way now. That hurts. That's a personal thing.
Johnny Nelson gives a very realistic take on the situation, explaining that Eddie Hearn's door is not fully closed, but the trust has been badly damaged. Even with success ahead, the emotional and professional bridge has taken a major hit. Chris Eubank Jr.'s ongoing comments keep the spotlight on this breakdown, constantly reminding fans how deep the divide has become between both sides.
It's harder. So now this has happened, Eddie's hurt. But trust me, if 2 or 3 fights down the line and Conor keeps winning, Conor wins his next fight 15 mil, then he puts himself up down another level, and Conor's in a position for Eddie to put a show on, Eddie'll do it. He'll put a show on. They'll work together again. But that trust is broken, that bridge is burnt in regards to that relationship. He's hurt. And
Conor Benn defends his decision as a pure business move, focusing on financial security and long-term stability for his family. From Eddie Hearn's side, this reinforces the idea that fighters eventually make choices based on opportunity rather than loyalty. Chris Eubank Jr. has repeatedly pointed to this kind of mindset as part of why these relationships in boxing eventually collapse.
It's a business decision, and you have to make the best decision for you, your family, and your career. And for me, this is the best decision.
Did your dad approve of it?
Instantly. When you're talking the numbers you're talking, it's, well, who's going to pay for my mortgage when I'm done and retired? So I lost the next 3 fights.
Oscar de la Hoya highlights the shock factor around Conor Benn's deal and Eddie Hearn being left out of such a major move. The scale of money involved shows how modern boxing is shifting towards massive one-fight contracts. Chris Eubank Jr. has also added fuel to this narrative, suggesting that Eddie Hearn is often the one left dealing with the fallout when fighters chase bigger financial opportunities.
Hearn must be pissed off. Eddie Hearn must be pissed off. My God, how can they do that to Eddie Hearn? It is not right. I heard it's a one-fight deal for 8 figures. And what I don't understand is, like, yeah, who is paying him? I don't understand who is paying him. Conor Benn. because he's going to demand a lot of money. If it's going to be 8 figures, whatever it might be, he's going to demand a lot of money. So I'm not sure who's going to pay.
Max Kellerman breaks down the situation from a straight business angle, arguing that Conor Benn made a free market decision rather than a betrayal. Still, Eddie Hearn's emotional reaction shows how personal these moves can feel after years of investment. Chris Eubank Jr. continues to push the narrative that behind all the business talk, there is real pride and ego involved in this breakdown.
They are literally minding their business. Mind your business. Right? Well, I am minding my business. He took my fighter. No. Your fighter was a free agent and he made a business choice, right? Here's the problem, though. You can't beat your chest and talk a mess on Monday about how Zuffa sucks and all this, and then literally cry on a Tuesday. You can't the very next day be choking back tears about the L.
Tony Bellew adds another layer of tension to the Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn fallout, suggesting that the relationship has reached a point where communication itself has broken down. From Eddie Hearn's side, this reflects how deep the emotional impact runs after years of building a fighter's career. Chris Eubank Jr. has also been vocal in this space, repeatedly pointing out how quickly loyalty disappears in boxing when money and business decisions come into play, making Eddie Hearn's position even more exposed in this drama.
Pick the phone up because he hasn't got the stomach to. He hasn't got it in him to. He knows there's no words that can make this right. It's just one of them things. It's boxing, Goose. It's boxing. And he knows that that's why he has not picked up the phone. This is a man he spent every other day or for months.
Carl Frock highlights the emotional contradiction at the center of this situation, where loyalty was once promised but later replaced by business decisions. Eddie Hearn is clearly shown as the most affected figure, having invested both emotionally and financially into Conor Benn's journey. Chris Eubank Jr. continues to amplify this narrative in the background, reinforcing the idea that Eddie Hearn has been left dealing with the fallout of decisions he helped shape and support over many years.
Conor Benn, on numerous occasions, saying, my loyalty can't be touched. Look, it's not about money, it's about loyalty. And now all of a sudden he's left Eddie Hearn. And Eddie looks devastated. I've listened to a couple of interviews what he's done, and he seems genuinely upset and devastated, which is a shame on him, a shame for him, because he's heavily invested emotionally and financially with Conor.
Dominic Ingle reflects on how Conor Benn managed to rebuild his career with major backing from Eddie Hearn, showing how closely their paths were tied during difficult times. Eddie Hearn is portrayed as someone who took risks and stood by his fighter even during controversy, which makes the current split even more dramatic. Chris Eubank Jr. has been using this type of storyline to question the fairness of boxing relationships, adding more pressure onto Eddie Hearn as emotions and business collide in this ongoing saga.
Where he's been and his career was almost over, and Eddie, dug him out of it and stuck by him and kind of compromised himself really, because he kind of did a U-turn on drugs, Eddie, didn't he, at that point, because it was all ban him for life, and then when Conor failed it was, oh well, it's a bit different in this situation. So it is interesting how it's all turned out in the end, but boxers' careers are very short.
Johnny Nelson gives a clear insight into Eddie Hearn's mindset, describing him as a calculated businessman who always operates with strategy first. Despite the emotional fallout with Conor Benn, Eddie Hearn is still being framed as someone who understands the industry on a deeper level and makes decisions based on long-term business logic. Chris Eubank Jr. continues to highlight how these business moves still leave emotional scars behind, keeping Eddie Hearn at the center of boxing's biggest controversies and debates.
He's hurt, and his team are hurt, and I get it. I remember when Eddie left Sky for the Zone. We were like kids, like parents, are split up thinking, whoa, what's going on here? That was a business move. For us, it was a personal, because we loved the union with Sky and Matchroom. We loved that. But that was a business move for them, so it worked for him. So you understand, it comes at different levels. So I understand where Eddie's coming from. I understand where Conor's coming from. I understand the public are thinking, how can he be such an ungrateful someone? So I get it. But this boxing is a sport, is a business.
Eddie Hearn stands at the center of this storm as the fallout between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. continues to explode in public. What was once a strong promoter-fighter relationship has now turned into emotional interviews, accusations, and frustration on all sides. Eddie Hearn is being portrayed as both hurt and business-driven, showing how quickly loyalty in boxing can collapse under pressure and big money decisions. From his side, everything is being framed as professional structure and support for fighters, while critics are questioning whether the emotional bond was ever truly respected. Chris Eubank Jr. keeps adding heat by pointing out contradictions in the story and highlighting how messy the situation has become for Eddie Hearn. With legal tensions, financial disputes, and public call-outs still circulating, this drama is far from over. At the heart of it, Eddie Hearn remains focused on business, but the emotional damage from this split is clearly visible. The big question now is whether Conor Benn and Eddie Hearn can ever rebuild trust, or if this divide has permanently changed boxing politics. Fans are now fully split, debates are louder than ever, and every new interview is only adding more fire to an already explosive rivalry.